Hey everyone, it's Thomas Wooden Railway, and for the first time in a couple of years, we have some brand new Thomas & Friends Wooden Railway merchandise to unbox. This is the Wooden Railway Celebration Engines 4-pack, and this item has a pretty unique history behind it already. I believe the first pictures of this item were leaked or discovered roughly a year ago, back in 2023, and a lot of people were theorizing that this was potentially a commemoration of the upcoming 80th anniversary of the Thomas the Tank Engine franchise. But for a long time now, many months, we haven't heard any updates on this pack at all. But very recently, this pack, along with another Thomas & Friends Wooden Railway set, was added to the Fisher-Price/Mattel website, and it was available to order. So as you can tell, before I dive into what's inside, this is meant to be an online exclusive item. This is the outward facing packaging of the item, and I don't think we'll see this pack being sold in retail stores right now. And the reason I say that is because when you think of all the other Wooden Railway merchandise that has been released since Thomas Wooden Railway was resurrected in 2022, the packaging, for lack of a better term, it's been a lot cleaner and nicer than this. This is meant to be an online exclusive, so it doesn't really matter what the outside of the packaging looks like, because you're not going to walk into, let's say, a Walmart or a Target and see this on the shelf. Really quickly, I find it a bit interesting. There's this section right here that's blank. Maybe that's where a shipping label is supposed to go. Mine came in a bigger box, but I thought that was kind of interesting. Regardless, though, I'm really excited to open this. Like I said, it's been way too long since we had brand new Wooden Railway merchandise to take a look at. So I believe there are 4 engines included, and I don't know if the product description actually says if this is related to the Thomas & Friends 80th anniversary coming up. But it kind of makes, I guess, sense that this would be released for that, because it's celebration engines, and I mean 80 years is nothing to smirk at. So there hasn't been any direct, as far as I know, there hasn't been any direct confirmation that's what this pack is supposed to commemorate. But let's take a look inside and see what we get. Oh boy. So I'm really glad I didn't tear into this box, because there's this really nice picture here of the 4 engines included. So yeah, even though it's not meant for, I guess a retail space, they've done a really great job of presenting the engines super nice. And that was really what I was hoping for, is that, the presentation for something like this, it could potentially be a collector's item. You would just want it to look really well. So we have Thomas, and for lack of a better term, I guess that's a cargo car, a very fancy cargo car. The piece of cargo right there looks like a birthday cake and some cupcakes. We have Gordon, and all of these engines, as you can tell, they have some special decorations on the side of them to commemorate this sort of celebration theme that we're going for. So I'm curious. Okay, so it doesn't pull all the way out, but you can kind of, I guess, prop it up better if you want. Yeah, I'm really glad I didn't tear into this box. I saw pictures of this online, but I totally forgot there's this really nice drawing. And let's not forget, here in 2024, we are on, it's been 3 years since All Engines Go took over. So the fact that we are still getting merchandise like this that commemorates what I would call like classic Thomas & Friends, basically non-cartoon All Engines Go, is pretty incredible. It's no secret that, after the first couple waves of Thomas Wooden Railway merchandise were released in early 2022, the line has been stagnant since then. We've got new Day Out with Thomas's every year, and I would expect that to continue. But in terms of like brand new merchandise, yeah, there's really been nothing to buy. I quickly bought up almost everything there was, and then I've just kind of sat here for the past 2 years. So I know people want me to get everything out of the box. That's what we're all here for. So I'm going to do the best I can to preserve the wonderful artwork that we have and the box. This actually, while I'm doing this, I'd like to throw some pictures up on screen. This actually reminds me of, like, honestly, 10 years ago, there was a dedicated website to Thomas Wooden Railway, and it was called ThomasWoodenRailway.com. And the premise of the website was actually really, really good. It was, a place for you to go online and buy wooden railway merchandise. But then the hook to get people there is that there was a lot of exclusive stuff offered. So that's where we got characters like Logan and Sam and later Dustin. And I mean, there was a lot of emphasis on Wooden Railway, and it kind of went in conjunction with the Sodor Story collection and also the dedicated train stores, or I should say like the toy stores that were selling Thomas Wooden Railway at the time. I think of them as like mom and pop stores, not like Toys R Us or something like that. There was a couple of those specialty stations, I think is what they were called, all around the United States, where you could go and see everything. But if you didn't live in one of those areas, you could go online and buy the exclusive merchandise there. And the point I'm trying to make is when that online merchandise was shipped to you, because it was online exclusive, it came in these, for lack of a better term, kind of like blank blue boxes that had these stripes on it, and I actually really liked the design. It was kind of a minimalist design, but it reminds me of that because a couple years later, after the Thomas Wooden Railway website was no longer supported, everything was moved over to Fisher Price. A lot of that merchandise actually ended up in, I would call them like discount or retail stores, like TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Home Goods, even the no longer around Tuesday Morning. And those blue boxes, which would sit on the shelves, and they didn't have any like outward, pictures or words or anything on them that said what they were. And so some of the stores I went to, they would just throw these items up on the shelves, and it's like you as the consumer would have to open up the item on the shelf and see what was inside. Actually, I went to a couple of stores and they did bother to like print out a picture or like write a description, because again, it was kind of like, think of it as like a blind bag, like you don't really know what you're getting into. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that this style of packaging, where I would call it minimalist and maybe not, it's the outward facing packaging, isn't super descriptive. It's actually not anything new for the Thomas Wooden Railway line. We have to go back a couple of years to remember something like that. I will say, this packaging here is very heavy on the color brown, I guess is the best way to put it. And the other one was more of a blue color, and I have to say I prefer the blue color, but this brown color has been very apparent in a lot of the other packaging. Like you look at the normal train packaging, and the side of the box where the engine slips out is brown, and just a lot of it's kind of like they shifted like the primary color of Thomas Wooden Railway packaging. Like if you look at a 2017 Thomas versus a 2022 Thomas, the 2017 Thomas it's basically blue, and then going forward it's basically brown. And I think there are pros and cons to both. But anyway, before I drive into the trains, one last look at this beautiful piece of artwork. It doesn't appear to pop off. It's just a cardboard thing, but man, this is worthy of being framed in and of itself. And so if you happen to buy this, it's so tempting to just tear into this, but it is actually supposed to be presented in a way for possibly, being displayed. I'll come along and kind of, get rid of these wires here to make it a little more presentable, and I need to figure out a way to get that piece of cargo out, because apparently it should sit like right there, and it's not there. So anyway, I will maybe take a closer look at what we have going on there a little bit later, but let's set the stage for the engines, because that's what we're all here for. This is something I never thought this set, or this pack, whatever you want to call it, would see the light of day, to be honest. It has been the last couple of years as a Wooden Railway fan. I think there were incredible highs at the beginning when all of this stuff was announced, and then it's basically been radio silent since then. And you have to wonder, Did we kind of got like our stock standard characters? We kind of got the first couple of waves and then nothing. And I'm not privy to the information that goes on behind the scenes, but it was a little bit puzzling because there seemed to be a lot of momentum around the new revamped wooden railway in late 2021, early 2022, and then it just kind of died out. So anyway, here is Thomas. It looks like this is the same face as the Thomas from the figure 8 set, which is actually currently my channel icon. So I'm a big fan of this face. The original Thomas face that was included in your normal Thomas is okay. They definitely went the route with these toys of being, let's kind of give them quirky faces. We've had decades of normal, like I guess default faces. Let's kind of do something different. But I am a big fan of this face. However, I think for the purposes of this pack, I would have preferred maybe a different face simply because we've already seen this face. That's just my opinion, but I can't complain that it's still a really nice face. So Thomas here is decked out in some celebration garb. This is honestly very reminiscent to the episode Thomas Meets the Queen, I think from season 4, where the engines were kind of doctored up in this garb. And there's probably some other minor episodes, but honestly, that's what this really reminds me of. We have some streamers and banners and confetti. We even still have the detail. You can kind of see the firebox lighting inside the cab. He has confetti all over him. This is really well done. And honestly, this is what I hoped for the Wooden Railway range going forward, because these toys are made a little bit differently than they were for the first 25 years, from about 1992 to 2017. And, it feels like the decals, it's like stuff is printed on versus painted on, and you can almost come in like with a stamp type feature. And that gave me hope because we could see, different versions and, we could see different versions and special editions of engines made very, very quickly and easily and honestly affordably, because it all comes down to price. And same thing with the face. The faces aren't really molded. Like, yes, they are, but they do come in with, they can easily change, Thomas's smile or his eyebrows, or even like if he wants to wink with one eye. So when these toys were originally announced, it gave me hope that we could see a lot more, Thomases with a special face or a special edition Thomas. Because the line has kind of stagnated, we haven't really seen that. I would like to point out the wheels here, basically they appear to be white, for lack of a better term. You can kind of see the spokes in there, but that just adds to the overall design of this engine. I would liken it to wearing almost like white wall tires on an automobile. This is really, really nice. I think it's interesting, and I think this has been the case with all of the, special versions of an engine or different versions. They don't bother to give this Thomas like a name. Like in the past, this would probably be labeled like Celebration Thomas or something like that. Just a normal Thomas. So we can, I think the unofficial term for this engine would be Celebration Thomas. We still have the plastic coal at the back, which is great. Like, I love this. This is really, really awesome. It invokes the feeling of celebration, and it's just really, really nice. Thomas was paired up with a cargo car in the pack there, and I think this is a reissue of some type of cargo car. I think it's the cargo car from the figure 8 set. Forgive me if I'm incorrect in that. But honestly, the bunting and the styling on this reminds me of some type of chariot. That's immediately what comes to mind. I know this is a cargo car. It is meant to hold cargo, but if we had the ability to put some type of figures, maybe Lego figures would fit in there really well. It would look like Thomas is, giving a tour, or, sending people along their way as he rolls across the track here. It came with a cargo car, or excuse me, a piece of cargo, which is this right here. What's really interesting for those who don't know, I am used to the pieces of cargo that are actually, I think I have one right here. Yeah, this will suffice. I'm used to pieces of cargo like this where the magnet was very visible, and it's like it was clearly magnetic. 2022 Thomas Wooden Railway, the magnets are more subtle. You can kind of see the faint outline of of a magnet right there. So if you were to pair this up with Cranky or another magnetic object, it would be magnetic. I think the birthday cake and the cupcakes are a nice add for sure. The pieces of cargo. I think back to there was a birthday, I think it was the technical term was actually Happy Birthday Thomas that was released, and it was like a giant plastic cake, and you press the top and it sang, or it hummed the Thomas and Friends theme song. I think that is a little bit more impressive, but for all intents and purposes, this is still like a really nice ad right here. This is a really nice pack, and they kind of match. Like, it's very clearly meant to be that Thomas is supposed to be the one pulling this cargo car. The wheels are the same, and honestly, like I said, repeating myself, the white and the light blue, it's actually called a cake car, so forgive me. The technical term is the cake car. It's not a cargo car, it's a cake car. I am just really impressed with just how fancy this looks and elegant. Like, I could almost see, like, Thomas, on the subject of Thomas Meets the Queen, like having the royal family sit in this car and Thomas puff along. So that is the first of 4 engines. Let's move over to, I guess, Percy. So Percy has a really funny face. This is definitely meta or breaking the fourth wall. It's I think that expression is very clearly meant to be he notices he has confetti on his face and he's kind of like, what is that? Or, like Percy's so happy-go-lucky. So Percy, in his normal original release, had like a surprise face, and then he had a different expression when he was released with the Tidmouth Sheds destination. So this is actually the 3rd version of Percy we've had in this line, and I think that's the most out of any character, with the exception of Thomas, who has a couple different Day Out with Thomas variants. So I'm really impressed that they elected to go with another design. It's not just like the same design, but shortened down to Percy's specs. And, basically it's like almost copy and paste. We have some balloons there, some streamers, some confetti. Really, really nice still. This is, so one of the cool parts about Percy, he's actually not symmetrical. He kind of has this area that sticks out over here, but not on this side. I'm glad they kept that. That makes me believe that they're just reusing the original Percy mold that came out, almost 2.5, 3 years ago. I like this Percy a lot. I think Thomas kind of has some special wheels there. They're painted a different color than normal. I'm pretty sure Percy's wheels are the exact same. But I have talked at length about how important these faces are. That's a good Percy face. Without the confetti there, he'd be looking a little cross-eyed, almost like, like his eyes are in the wrong spot or something like that. But that's a really good Percy face, and always been a fan of the dome. It's almost its separate piece up there, which is really, really great. I think one of the more impressive items from this pack is Gordon. First of all, the tender engines as a whole in the new 2022 Thomas Wooden Railway line, they're just so impressive. They're the biggest wooden railway characters we've ever seen, and the addition of the extra wheels and the extra length is much, much appreciated. Gordon definitely has, I guess, they've done a really good job with the color coding here. Like, Gordon looks really good. Thomas kind of has like a white and blue theme going on. Gordon is definitely like yellow and blue for sure. One of the things I was really, really excited about with Gordon is the face. Gordon kind of had this appearance of like what's the best way to put this? Like, almost puzzled or concerned, or definitely like his mind is somewhere else, in that original face that he had. And I don't think it was a bad face. It was definitely a Gordon face, but again, like, is it a good default face? Is that the best Gordon face that we'd want to roll forward with, in this new merchandise line? This face, I'm a little bit split on. This has the expression of like a season 1 or like a very early like model series Gordon expression, and it doesn't really look CGI to me. I think that's kind of what's throwing me off. Like I said, or I guess I will reiterate, it is still a good Gordon face. But for example, I actually had a custom done where I put a 2013 Gordon face on one of these new 2022 bodies. And personally, I'm just a bit more of a fan of that style of face and that expression versus what is clearly, in my opinion, almost like it even throws me back to like Railway series. Again, I don't think it's a bad face, but it's a good default face. The only problem is that this is not really a default Gordon. He has like a flag on the side here, and those aren't really streamers. I don't really know what those, like the technical term for those off the top of my head, but they're like banners, but they're not in your typical banner style. So anyway, he has, I guess that's confetti flying around too. It's like a different style. It's like more square confetti, if that makes sense. Yeah, it honestly, this is a very proper version of a celebration Gordon. I love the yellow wheels. That's a nice touch. And again, this is not an exact copy of what we saw in Thomas Meets the Queen, but that's what this Gordon kind of invokes. It's a Gordon dressed up for a big event, and yeah, this is really, really nice. Always been a fan of the bigger tenders. Again, I was talking about that confetti, and the confetti choices, the colors are actually like red, white, and blue. So dare I say, like, it kind of invokes some, I don't know, some American colors in my mind as an American. But the yellow flags are really nice. I don't really tend to think about the actual, if this was a real life engine, how, like, what are, like, these flags, are they pinned, are they attached to the bottom of Gordon's tender here, or is it just supposed to be like, oh, he's flying by on the rails and he passes some flags and the photographer took a screen, like a picture or something like that? I don't like to get too into that, but the flag details are really great. The one thing I have noticed looking at all of the engines is that any type of decoration does not extend past the main body here, which makes me believe that they're kind of reusing like parts from a stock standard Gordon. Same thing with Percy right there, and actually same thing with Thomas. And it was less obvious because the smoke box there on those engines is not as big, but Gordon has a pretty big smoke box in this version. So I will say one area of improvement I would say is having the these banners or whatever, or furls or whatever they're called, or any type of decoration extend to this area. That even goes for the confetti design, because it's like all the confetti fell on Gordon except on his front, where his smoke box is, which, if we're being honest, is not super realistic. Again, getting deep into the weeds here with this item. But this Gordon is really, really nice. When this picture first popped up, my eyes naturally gravitated towards the Gordon, because there is something about these really big engines like Gordon and Henry and Hero. They're so impressive in their size, and even James or Edward for that matter, that it's just the length of them and how big they are and how cool they are that is just really, really awesome. The final engine included in this pack is James, and so James has some really nice elements with his models. I was always kind of surprised by the lack of wheels on the tender. I guess you would have to give James a bigger tender like this, which is maybe what they wanted to do, but I always felt James's tender, like 95% of this toy is really awesome, and then the tender, in terms of like the design and the appearance, the aesthetic, kind of falls apart for me. There's just a lot of open space right here, and it looks like his tender's like put up on stilts or something like that. But we're not really here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the design. So James is certainly like, wow, just probably the most exclamatory of all the engines. Just these fireworks are really, really bright, and it honestly goes really well with his colors. When I would think of, the fireworks going off and the gunpowder and everything, and red is a very natural color for that. So we got more detailing up on top. I haven't really taken a good look at the face, so the face, I'm trying to see, so maybe you guys can see, but next to his pupils, at least on mine, there's like these two black like smudges, And I don't really think that's supposed to be there. And honestly, James is his right, our left. His pupil there, I think that's supposed to be like a firework going off in his pupil, you know, like you see the reflection of the firework. But when I look at it, I'm like, oh, the printing's messed up. That's kind of what I think of. I'll throw up a picture of the official promo image of what James is supposed to look like, and maybe we can compare. I want to say, though, well, I don't know. Those smudges I was talking about, I actually think they are supposed to be there. Regardless, the expression is good. He's kind of like half winking, looking up towards the sky because of the fireworks, which I think is really, really great. The problem is that, you know, we've spent, you know, a lot of time talking about the face and kind of how confusing it is. And I think that's kind of the problem, is that these other faces have been slam dunks, and James's face, that's not really a slam dunk. It kind of makes you question or ponder a few things. Overall, though, James is still a really nice model. Looking at the tender here more, got the fireworks. Just checking underneath, he says James. So James and Edward in this, you know, revamped 2022 Thomas Wooden Railway, always a bit interesting for me because I am definitely a fan of the longer engines. Like I said, your major tender engines, and then even like an engine like Emily, who has always been relatively the same size as James and Edward. But you know, the sizing is still okay because James is still not the same size as Gordon. Like they're lined up like right there. Their back magnets are lined up, and Gordon is a little bit longer than James. So you still get the impression that Gordon is a really big engine. So James, I probably have to say, you know, out of the four I've looked at, James is probably my least favorite. I think the expression, I think that's a James expression. I wouldn't really call it like a good default face, per se. James's original face is actually pretty good. He's definitely like exclaiming, like he's very, very happy. And this is more of like a, I don't know, a less subdued, you know, still a happy version, but a less subdued version of James. So I'm actually a very big fan of the detailing on the outside. It's just the face, like, you know, the other ones did not stop me in my tracks, and this one kind of did. And I would actually like to see other people, when they unbox this set, if their James kind of has those, I wouldn't really call them defects, but those other, let's call them artistic choices on the front there. So that is the entirety of the pack. I'll kind of line the engines up here so that we can kind of take one last look at everything. I think this is a really great pack, and I think a lot of people are going to be asking, okay, cost, you know, because that's really, really what it comes down to. This set for me, this pack, I should say, was kind of a no-brainer because, like I said, I have not gone out, with the exception of the 2022, 2023, and 2024 Day Out with Thomas's. I have not gone out and purchased any new wooden railway in quite some time, and I think that's a problem. It's not something that I'm proud of. But the line has been stagnant, you know, unless you, like I said at the beginning of the video, I very quickly collected, you know, all of the items in the line with the exception of maybe one of the track packs. And then we have not heard anything from this line in quite a while. And then this picture was leaked, again, roughly a year ago. And people were like, oh, celebration, that means, you know, 80th anniversary and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, it's been radio silence. We have not heard anything. It really does make you question, like, does the line even exist? From my understanding, I think the best way to put it is that the merchandise line is on autopilot. You know, they came out with, you know, the engines in 2022, and for whatever reason, they've decided not to move forward with new molds of engines. You know, we haven't gotten any, you know, other characters. It's not like we're going to see a Duck or an Oliver or a Donald or a Douglas. Or even like a very common character across all merchandise lines like Victor. I think I will not go as far to say the line is alive or dead. I think it's just on autopilot, really. But this is the first, you know, glimpse of new merchandise we've had in a really, really long time. And it is so cool because I think we are honestly to the point where we take this merchandise for granted. Like, let's not forget Wooden Railway, Thomas Wooden Railway, the merchandise line was killed off. It was replaced. And I think, during the dark days of Thomas Wood, a lot of us were like, well, man, we'd give anything for Thomas Wooden Railway to come back. And it came back, and arguably, it is a lot better. There are elements to it that are a lot better than the previous Thomas Wooden Railway, which was really great in and of itself. I think the one thing that's lacking is just the lack of world building with this merchandise line. It's like we got Knapford Station, we got Tidmouth Sheds, and Cranky, and like those are the only pieces of merchandise. Like, I think that's the thing, is honestly what's holding this merchandise line back is itself. We would, in order for it to reach in my opinion, reach the bar or the peak of success as classic Thomas Wooden Railway, you need to be rolling out all the characters and all the different versions and the destinations. And that's the thing, is that this merchandise line doesn't really have what I would call like the world building of 25 years of the previous Thomas Wooden Railway. But these toys right here are a really great reminder as to, the great things about this line. Looking at the toys when they're all lined up like that, I do think it's interesting. We got custom faces for Percy, James, and Gordon, but then we got a reused face for Thomas. I don't know if that's an admission that Thomas face is actually like really, really good. And it should kind of be the default face. But I think for the purposes, since the other engines in this pack have a special face, I think I would have liked to have seen Thomas have a special face. I think I got sidetracked. I'm very excited. I'm very rambling right now. But what people are going to ask is the cost. So let me throw up a screenshot of the Mattel website. This pack costs $59.99, which is basically $60. And for 4 engines, you may be like, wow, that's a lot or whatever. But let's break it down. Gordon is $22 without tax. James is $22 without tax. So what are we at? $44. And an individual Thomas is going to cost you, I think those are $16.99 now, and same with Percy. So when you divide $60 by 4, you're paying $15 for each engine, which is roughly the cost of a single Thomas here. Let's not even bring in the cargo car, let's say. But you're basically getting Gordon, who is normally $22. You're basically getting him for $15. So honestly, I think this pack is very reasonably priced. Price always comes up. People like to complain about it. But in terms of this being like a celebration type pack, no, like I actually think this is very well priced, and I think it's a really great gift. I think you can take the engines out of the box like I have here, or you can keep them in the box and, use it as a display piece. I think the only tricky thing is that, the outside box is not really, I guess great for displaying, because this is the box right here. This is how you would set it up, like on a shelf or something. And that's not the greatest. But I would like to look into potentially... So the tricky thing is that the cardboard that this is attached to, that all of the engines were connected and made to stay in here, this cardboard is not super strong. So if you came along and, let's say, cut this off and wanted to display these engines... it'd be a little bit of a challenge. Like, I don't think this cardboard piece would stand up. I think the best way to do it, though, is honestly like this. Just like that. Oops. Because the artwork is super, super cool. You want to show off the artwork. So I think it's definitely going to be a unique thing to display, but I think the way to do it is to set it up like this, where you kind of have the image in the background, and then you would, my camera is not set up for the best angle, but you would have it open so that you could see the engines inside. I think that would be the best way to display it. I think in a perfect world, honestly, like, I'll throw up a picture of what I would have liked this set to more look like, where the engines were immediately displayed on the outside. Here's a Wooden Railway version. And then honestly, like, the last couple of metal train slash push along ranges of merchandise we've had, they always do some type of like mega character pack, and I think they do a really good job. Like here's the All Engines Go version, and I think they do a really good job. Like there's 10 engines in this pack, and they're all displayed like front and center, and that should make a kid like jump for joy. Like look at all of the trains you are about to have. So when this picture was originally released of this pack, you know, many months ago, there was no look as to how the outside was going to appear. And so in my mind, I was like, oh, well, I would like for it to be like, keep the same size as this box, but almost put the indentations for the engines on the front here so that it can sit like this on a shelf and be displayed if you want it to display. However, I do have to remind myself, you know, I'm not really the target audience for this toy. I think most people buying this toy are going to want to play with the toys, which is totally fair. But me thinking as a collector, having, you know, Thomas, Gordon, Percy, or James, or however they were laid out in there, actually on the outside of the packaging, that would have been my preference. But I understand why they did it this way, because it is an online exclusive. And honestly, like, we should be thankful we even got that really nice picture in the back, because this could have easily been left blank or something like that. I'm just now noticing, which is really weird, I'm just now noticing like the giant cake in the background. So I'm guessing this piece of cargo is supposed to represent that. And like, okay, I think it suffices, but you know, like I said, at one point we had a really awesome cake that actually looks super similar to that. Like if I throw up a picture of the old cake from Thomas Wooden Railway from like 10 years ago, that actually matches that more than this. But we have to remember we're kind of, you know, playing in a specific set of rules here, and this is probably the best we were going to get. So overall, I am very happy with this pack. First and foremost, let me just preface by saying I'm just happy to have any type of Thomas Wooden Railway merchandise back, like without a doubt. It has been way too long. Nobody really knows the specifics. We're not really, you know, we as consumers are not really privy to that information. But it's just been too long. You know, whereas the other ranges of merchandise have gotten some really, you know, cool, like at least I would say, you know, you have to be a fan of All Engines Go, you know, to really think about the merchandise, and form an opinion about it. But, you know, they have had, for, you know, what I'm trying to say is they've had active merchandise ranges, and Wooden Railway has not really been active. Like, it's been kind of dormant. So for all of a sudden for this to finally release, is a huge relief. It shows that there is still a focus on Wooden Railway. You know, you dive deeper into these toys and you realize, oh, they're just reusing old molds. You know, they probably had an artist come in and design this on some type of computer paint program, and they just slap the decal on the side. Like, you know, there could be better signs that Wooden Railway is still alive and a priority for Mattel. But again, like, I think we should just be happy that we're getting any merchandise at all. And this is merchandise, and it's still really good merchandise. So I'm a big fan of this pack. I don't see the price dropping. I see the price staying the same. And I think that's A-okay. I think it's actually very reasonably priced. And, you know, you get 4 engines for $60. And that's $15 an engine, which is cheaper than any of these engines sold individually. So I'm a fan of this. I would plead almost to anybody out there who is a fan of Thomas Wooden Railway, if you like the toys and you want there to be a possibility for more toys, I think you should go out and buy this set, because we need to show that we are fans of this type of merchandise and we want more of these toys out there. They could be testing the waters for all we know. It's going to face an uphill battle because it's an online exclusive. As of the making of this video, the pack is not even on Amazon, which is a bit interesting because all the other Wooden Railway merchandise is. And honestly, that's the major place to buy the new Wooden Railway stuff, is Amazon. However, if you've made it this far in the video, you might say, oh, it's $60, but what about shipping? Well, when I bought this like less than a week ago, anything over $50 was free shipping. So it's basically like what you get with Amazon Prime. So this cost me $62 with tax or something like that. which I think is a really great deal. So I cannot stress enough how awesome it is to have Wooden Railway back. To at least know that there are people still chugging along behind the scenes trying to make this merchandise line happen. And as a fan of the toys, speaking to probably other fans of this merchandise range, I think we should support it. And, you know, maybe this is a really cool item you should ask for the holidays or an upcoming birthday, or maybe save up your money and buy it as well. This is definitely worth the price, and I'm a huge fan of it. So I have rambled for far too long about 4 wooden toy trains on my table here, but just beyond thrilled that there are signs of life for Thomas and Friends Wooden Railway. So if you're able, let me know what you think about these toys in the comments below. I'm a fan. I'd love to hear your opinions. And yeah, just overjoyed we have some more Thomas Wooden Railway items to add to our collection. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you soon.